I just think we need to kill them, every one of them, and that's it.
Most of the kids there that are getting killed, I never support little children dying. But if you look at the bigger picture, which is shit, I don't want to look at it like that, sorry about my... But most of them will grow up not only supporting Hamas, but joining them.
The idea of you coming from America, settling in, potentially in Gaza, kicking Palestinians out, a lot of people would see that as settler colonialism.
Thing is, I think that colonialism gets a bad rap.
It's not our fault that we are stronger than them.
Yeah, it's also not our fault that we defend ourselves and we have every right to defend ourselves. Don't hate us Jews, we're really nice people and we love life.
We want peace.
We just want peace, love and rock and roll.
The easier way is to say to finish them out, but you really can't say that. So basically to free them in their own place.
You think that Palestinians should just be kicked out?
To say it in nice words, kicked out, yeah, but to be in their own jail. That's it.
Jail?
In their own place, we give them food, we give them their jobs, but at the end of the day, if you do give an animal food, and I'm trying to talk nice here.
There are two types of Zionists, and I've never come across a third option. One are the honest Zionists, the ones who are racist and proud of it, the right wing. And they don't try to come across as humanistic or liberal or democratic. They're honest about their supremacy, because Zionism is about racial supremacy. The other type are the liberal Zionists. The liberal Zionists act as a cover because they have to lie to the rest of the world and they have to lie to themselves every moment of every day.
You know, honest Zionists, they may be scary, but they actually do the work for us. They show the world exactly what Zionism is, what it really wants. Just watch the settler mommy prepare her kids for the takeover of Gaza.
מה הגבול של עזה בעצם?
פה כבר מתחילה רצועת עזה. עכשיו יש לנו חיילים שם שנלחמים, ואחרי שהם יסיימו את הלחימה.
אנחנו נעבור לפה?
האמת שלא אחרי, ביחד. חבל על הזמן. כן.
מתי זה יקרה?
תפתח יומן, פחות משנה. זה בטוח.
פחות משנה, את וכמה? 7 ילדים?
אני 7 ילדיי, בעלי. מה אני גאה 7 ילדים? כל ילד יקים יישוב, מה זאת אומרת? הם כבר הקימו.
Why are you the way that you are?
They are the way that they are because of indoctrination. But as disturbing as it is to listen to these honest Zionists, at least they're not confusing. They're not confused nor confusing. Their behaviors and words are aligned with their beliefs. For example, check out this ad in 2019 from Eilat Sheked, former Foreign Minister of Justice and right-wing member of the Knesset. It's a spoof on perfume ads, and in it she lists her aims in a funny way.
Fascism. מהפכה שיפוטית. צמצום אקטיביזם. מינוי שופטים. ריסון בג"ץ. פשיזם.
לי זה מריח כמו דמוקרטיה.
We're going to get more examples of these honest Zionists throughout the video because it's important to show the world what Israel really is. But the focus of this video as far as the analysis goes are the liberal Zionists, which are basically honest Zionists with a mask, pretty mask.
And the terrorists have to kill all of them, and we love peace. We love peace.
Just check out this article about this soldier who returned from Gaza and took a dog from there back to Israel. And he found the dog and he felt so bad for her, and her eyes told a different story. That story is that you killed her family and you stole her. This dog belonged to someone in Palestine. So you get to kill Palestinians, their land, their animals, their trees, and then come out as the hero. Actually, you know how you can spot a liberal Zionist? The focus is always on how you perceive them. It's not about what happens. You'll be talking about, but the kids are dying, the kids are starving. It's like, no, but you're misunderstanding me. I don't want kids to die or starve. But you're like, but they are dying. No, but you're misunderstanding me. I love kids. You're misunderstanding. The focus is always on, I'm good. I'm a good guy, basically.
They started everything. They have always wanted war. Israelis never want war. We even barely wanted to start this war. Barely wanted to start this war. But at the end of the day, I think that a kid running around shouldn't die. That being said, I don't know what it'll grow up to. You know, most of them, like around 75-ish%, they want us all dead, gone, and fucking, you know, they want my head on a spike. And I have never done anything bad ever to any person, even though I did serve in the IDF for 3 years.
Delusion.
Convince yourself.
Because at the root of it, they're trying to convince themselves that they're still a good person, despite their support of what Israel does. Because deep down inside, we all have a conscience. Well, most of us do. And deep down inside, you know the support of Israel is fundamentally opposed to being a decent human being. They don't go together. And trying to bring those two things together, things that don't go together, trying to bring them together, causes internal confusion. And that internal confusion is called cognitive dissonance, which is basically the discomfort a person feels when their beliefs don't align with their behavior and their words.
But I really hope it's not the end. As much as I say that in a heavy weight on the shoulders, because we hate war, because we love life.
Just one final question.
Yeah.
You've come up here, looked at binoculars into some northern Gaza here.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts when you saw?
I expected to see more destruction.
Prime example of the liberal Zionist is this guy Corey, who is behind this channel, The Ask Project, where he asks people on the street like what they think. And a lot of times when he'd be interviewing honest Zionists, he tried to kind of like further explain their message and make it more palatable for a Western audience.
ואני יודעת שהם אחראים במידה מסוימת לסבל שלהם.
בגלל 7 לאוקטובר. אני מסביר לאלה שצופים.
Corey, this guy behind the channel, is a classic liberal Zionist.
Hi everybody!
Nice guy, gay guy from Canada. He already has a country that he belongs to. Yet he thinks it's okay to live in another country that subjugates the indigenous people. But in order for people like that, I don't mean to single him out. He just represents a lot of people. And I'm sure he's very nice on a one-to-one basis. But people like him, in order to maintain the idea of themselves that they're good and liberal and decent, they need to keep telling themselves that Palestinians resist because of a culture of violence and death, as opposed to being justified by all the hurt from being trampled upon by all these outsiders. Like, he will often ask leading questions to which the answers are very obvious. Like when he asks, are you happy that Palestinians are dying? Of course people are going to say no, especially liberal Zionists. Then he's like, oh, why? Like acting like a 5-year-old, like explaining it, like, oh, why don't you love Palestinians dying? Of course they're going to say something nice.
Are you happy that people in Gaza are suffering?
Nope.
Okay, why not?
I mean, I don't like any suffering, personally. But I understand the current situation. I don't see any other choice for us as Israelis.
Of course, it's always for their security. Always. Everything they do is for their safety. But that's just a nice cover for the reality, which is actual land theft by these American and European settlers that are not from there.
This is our sovereign state.
Would you live there?
Of course.
By the beach?
Oh, for sure. We have lists already of about 500 families that are willing, on the drop of a hat, to just move into... we have North, Central, and South Gaza. You can't leave it without Jews in the Gaza Strip. It's too big a piece of land. It's too important.
What the fuck is going on in here on this day?
As insane as that admission is, it's actually no different than what liberal Zionists do. The ones that come from Canada and Europe and the US. They can actually afford to travel. Keep in mind that the Palestinians on the land are not allowed to travel anywhere because nobody gives them a visa. They can't even go on holiday, let alone migrate to another country. Like these Zionists who just moved from France, from Poland, from Ukraine, from the US, from Canada. They just hop on over. And Palestinians who are actually born on the land can't even go anywhere because no country will give them a visa. It's a miracle when they get a visa. But what kills me about liberal Zionists, liberal, hip, secular Zionists who think it's okay for them to be on the land is that if you actually ask them, they will tell you, well, no, we don't believe in God. We believe everyone should be free and do what they want. But then their reason for being on this land is that the Holy Book told them so.
אתה מאמין באלוהים. האם אתה מאמין באלוהים?
לא.
לא? למה?
אני חושב שהכל זה החלטות שלנו, זה נובע מהדברים שאנחנו עושים. אני לא מתעסק בשאלה הזאת.
לא? למה?
כי אני מאמין בדברים מוחשיים יותר.
מי ברא את העולם?
אין לי תשובה.
But the truth is, these liberal Zionists, their beliefs deep down inside are very much aligned with the right-wing, honest Zionists. And the truth always slips out. Like, check out this clip of Corey actually interviewing a more conservative kind of the honest type of Zionist. And in this interview, this Zionist is saying, oh, I know, of course I don't want to ethnically cleanse the land. But then Corey asks him, okay, so do you want Palestinians to live on the land? No, we can't live with them. So you're saying you don't want an ethnic cleanse, but in practice you want an ethnic cleanse. But that's not the point of the video, because at some point, this guy who's being interviewed, his friend in the background says, don't answer these questions, because this is probably a left-wing guy asking you kind of like leading questions. And then Corey from behind the camera says, no, this is not a left-wing thing. They believe the same thing.
זה לא צריך לעשות להם ניקוי אתני.
אתה חושב שאפשר להסתדר איתם?
על האדמה פה זה יהיה קשה.
אתה רוצה להעיף אותם מהאדמה פה?
להעיף לא. להעיף לא.
אז איך אפשר להסתדר?
אפשר להגיד דבר כזה. אני יודע.
לא, זה לא משהו שמאלני, אני יודע מה אתה חושב, כן. לא משהו שמאלני, אני יודע מה אתה חושב, כן.
But of course, all Zionists that support Israel and what it does, whether they're honest or liberal, whatever they may be, they all believe they're fighting for their security because everyone in the world, they genuinely believe that everyone in the world is out to get Jews. That the world is upset about Israel not because of its true nature as an apartheid state. No, they're upset because it's Jewish people. Because this is something they've been taught throughout their lives. Like, check out this Harvard professor lecturing young American Jews on how to weaponize victimhood and shift the focus from talking about what Israel is to the fact that people hate Jews.
Don't let the war of words ever be fought about Israel's nature. Let it be fought about why you can't accept Israel, why you have to single out this tiny people.
And listen to this young Israeli woman who actually served in the army and has friends who are still serving in the army when the interview was recorded in August, and lost friends at the music festival on October 7. Yet all that doesn't compare to the hurt how the world has forgotten about the Holocaust.
I think the thing that hurt me the most, personally, non-personally, like anti-Semitically, whatever, the thing that hurt me the most about this whole situation is how it's all the anti-Semitism in the world and in the United States and in Europe, and how so quickly people forget about everything, about the Holocaust, about the things that they did in Europe.
They're actually trained since childhood, unconsciously of course, to always return to that painful story that Westerners recognize. The painful story of the Holocaust, a genuinely painful story. They always go back to anti-Semitism as a defense, and they believe it, of course.
This is a message mostly for Jews in the diaspora, just about the insane anti-Semitism you're experiencing, and intimidation and Jew hate that's part of your lives now. It's not by accident. It's very deliberate by design, and it was planned before October 7th, equally with the physical violent massacre that took place on October 7th.
Honestly, like, Israel has robbed the word anti-Semitism of its meaning. They've cheapened it. If only they can hear what they sound like to the rest of the world.
Is there anything you'd like to talk about?
I would like to talk about
anti-Semitism. But the reason why all these liberal Zionists have to revert back to anti-Semitism all the time is because you cannot defend Israel on the basis of merit. You have to revert to something else. You have to deflect. And deflecting is actually a psychological defense mechanism against the cognitive dissonance, against this internal confusion. As mentioned before, cognitive dissonance occurs when two beliefs that don't go together have to exist together. So they cause this kind of tension. It is deeply uncomfortable to live with contradictory thoughts, of course. So you are motivated to resolve this discomfort by resorting to defense mechanisms. And there are 5 categories of psychological defense mechanisms that liberal Zionists use to ease the discomfort. The first one is avoiding, which is basically avoiding or ignoring everything that's causing this dissonance and confusion. And all of Israeli society is in on it.
And the Israeli media, they decided that they are part of the Israeli propaganda machinery. The Israeli average viewer, he sees the families of the hostages. He's being told day and night how brave are the soldiers. And only one thing you don't see, the suffer of Gaza. And the media decided not to show it, not because anyone pushed the media not to do it. They do it because they know very clear that this is what their viewers don't want to see.
The second coping mechanism is delegitimizing, which is undermining the evidence that's causing this confusion and these contradictory thoughts. Like, for example, how they undermine any report coming out of Gaza about the number of deaths or the injuries and all that. Like, oh, this is by the Hamas-run health ministry. Hamas-run. Everything is for them, which they know very well what they're doing. When they say Hamas-run, that means this information is not credible. The third coping mechanism is limiting impact, which is basically limiting the impact of what's going on. Like when they say, no, this is not genocide. How can a genocide be happening when they're still giving birth to babies? Or my favorite is when they say, if we wanted to do a genocide, we could, which is why we're not doing a genocide. It's like, I could rape the shit out of you, but I'm only doing it once.
Everyone blames us for genocide. And we're not. We know we're not. And I'm thinking about it. You know, I had a girlfriend that she always blamed me that I'm cheating on her. And in one point I said, listen, I can't be blamed for something that I didn't do. I hate to someone just for, you know? What I'm trying to say, guys, stop pushing it. We have the tools for genocide. We have. You don't want to do it?
As they say, if you want to understand the culture, look to its comedy. And the fact that people like that, people in Israel, find this funny? Like, this kind of comedy is like if Hitler or the Nazis were to come on stage. You know, we're gonna put them in the gas chambers, but we won't. Oh, Hitler, you jokester. What a kook. It's not funny. Comedy doesn't work like this. That's like a very pretty, rich girl comes on stage. She's like, I'm so beautiful and they're so ugly. No, comedy doesn't work from punching down. Go take a comedy workshop, please. And the fourth coping strategy is deflecting. And they do this a lot when they shift to anti-Semitism. But they also do it a lot when they shift to talk about how sexy and hot Israelis are. Like, there was one of these actors who came up in Stranger Things. And he caused a controversy by doing these stickers that says, Zionism is sexy. Ew.
In this video, Noah Schnapp can be seen laughing with his friends whilst wearing and passing around stickers that say Zionism is sexy and Hamas is ISIS.
And by the way, we're going to go through these strategies in detail throughout the video, but now I'm just listing them, right? And the final one is projecting. When they project every disgusting racist thought they have onto Palestinians. Like, you cannot believe the amount of times I get comments and DMs from people who say, have you seen those videos of the Palestinian children being indoctrinated in schools? Actually, no, I haven't. Can you show me? It's bone chilling. Okay, I'd like to see it. Can you show me? It's bone chilling. We get it. Your bones are chilled. Can I see the video? And they're like, you're being anti-Semitic right now. No, where is the video? Because it doesn't exist. Palestinian kids don't need to go to a school to get indoctrinated. They get indoctrinated by watching their school get blown up. And the irony is that the amount of videos that are everywhere, public for you to see, of parents and teachers indoctrinating their Israeli children about taking over Lebanon, and it's there for the public to see. But why do liberal Zionists use all these strategies to lie to themselves? Because confronting the truth of what Israel really is, which is basically a base for the United States, eyes and ears in the Middle East, that uses Jews as cannon fodder as it steals land, that's too painful. As a liberal Zionist, if you were to confront this painful truth, that means you're going to have to speak about it to your friends, family, social network, and all of Israeli society is in on this. And you're going to have to start convincing your loved ones to see the truth the way you see it. That's like social suicide. So of course you're going to avoid it. So for the Lipsync portion of this video, I came up with a therapy session using some audio from Muji, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, giving advice to a liberal Zionist on his way out, like how to let go of this need of trying to fix his Zionist family or his Zionist group. All of us know we cannot change or convince people of something they're not ready to see. You can't. Sometimes you're just going to have to let people be what they are.
Do you have the power to just leave that there? Why should you not be sure? Let me ask you something. All the things I asked you to leave aside, are they waiting for you? I'm asking everybody here. If I say, don't touch these things for a minute, don't all your to-do list. All these things, just don't touch them for a few moments. Just until I'm going to say stop in a moment. You can go back and pick up your stuff. Is anything fundamentally missing from you? Is it unbearable? Okay. Watch it. You have to sometimes leave some things like that. You're better off just being empty, but something doesn't trust it. Because something is interested. If you are not interested, you cannot be troubled by something you have no interest in. It means something, then you say, no, I want to get over this attraction for this thing, and then like this. Then if the attraction is there, then how you overcome the attraction then, you see. Then you must find out what is it that's attracted to what. Because the person has the attachment to the thing it wants to overcome, but it has to overcome the attachment. The thing is just the thing. You see? But we think, I'm going to overcome this, I'm going to climb over this. No. You must watch what is it that is so attracted to this, and when you observe that it's some kind of habit, but from the very human, personal standpoint, we get entangled very easy. We pick up that identity, it's like Velcro for thoughts. So anytime you like, you can go and pick up your stuff. I promise you, nobody is going to steal it. That's what leaving it means. Just leave it. Don't be concerned about how it's looking. Now it's growing. I said, leave it. But you said, leave it there. I said, just leave it there and leave it everywhere.
So yeah, liberal Zionism is basically denial. Denial of the truth. Which brings us to me and my channel. I'm called In Denial. I always say, I'm in denial so you can wake up. And speaking of my channel, I want to quickly thank all the people who donated on the last videos and the new members. Welcome, guys. And if you want to see me live, you can come to my show on March 7 here in Amsterdam. It's a show about fear of intimacy and facing your feelings. And by the way, the reason why I'm able to feel and able to cry and connect to other people is because of what I've been watching in Palestine for the past year and 4 months. So come see me March 7. Tickets link below. And I also coach. If you follow my journey with drag and you see how I was able to transform everything that is painful in my life into art, and you want a little bit of taste of that, you can also check out my website where I give one-on-one coaching sessions. And I also give, by the way, I started now the weekly call-ins, which are actually much cheaper, and it's for groups of up to 10 where we have weekly Zoom calls where we brainstorm on each other's projects. This is all, by the way, creativity coaching. I don't coach you on your life because I need therapy myself. But when it comes to creativity and where you're creatively blocked... Now let's get back to the subject of the video. Liberal Zionism, which sometimes feels like a stepping stone towards being anti-Zionist instead of being just stuck there.
But the whole point of liberal Zionism is to keep you stuck there.
Yes.
Because it's a feel-good thing. It's exactly in order to stop the transition from Zionism to humanism, okay? And you have to take a leap of faith from one side to the other. And most people obviously don't want to do that. But liberal Zionism is this thing that gives you the psychological feeling that you are the good guy in the story, that you don't have to take that leap of faith.
But deep down inside, all Zionists, liberal, honest, whatever type you want to call it, they know what's really going on.
Don't want to believe IDF of Israel. They do things like you said. It's messed me up.
I know. I don't want to believe it either, but it's the truth. Wasn't it an accident to bomb a school, a refugee camp, and a hospital? They're killing kids every single day. There are kids with bullet shots in their skulls. You see x-rays come out of Gaza with bullets literally in children's skulls. You know how disgusting that is? They are targeting them. But when you see a bullet in a kid's head, that is targeted. Was that an accident?
And how can you not see it when it's staring you right there in the face? Like the amount of videos and pictures out there of Israeli soldiers posing with the toys of the children that were killed, laughing, mocking the toys. Like, who does that? If your goal, let's say the stated goal of Israel is, as they claim, which is to stop terror, how does posing with the toys of the dead children and laughing serve that goal? We've heard many times before how Israelis are trained to become soldiers since kindergarten, right? But there's also a culture of suppressing whatever happens in the army. Like, it's so common for Israeli soldiers to go to India, to do so much drugs, to forget about it and party.
It's funny to think about the trip to India that many Israelis take after the army.
Yeah.
It's like part of this machine.
Yeah, go serve it.
Yeah.
But it is.
It is.
They go, you know, as a herd, and they go with their occupation mentality, and they occupy another place. They don't go there to see the other place, to learn about it. And you see signs in Hebrew in India about Israeli salad and Israeli...
One of my good friends here, she's a Dutch girl, but the reason she became kind of anti-Zionist is once she was in India, in Goa, and she met some of these soldiers who were very drunk, and in their drunk state, they started confessing to her what they did to Palestinians. It's almost like they were talking about a video game of death and destruction. Ever since then, she was like, what the fuck? And you see so many videos of people trying to catch Israelis in the act, like confessing to, are you happy you're killing Palestinian children when they confront these soldiers? A lot of them say, yeah, and I'll kill some more. And psychologically speaking, it's so interesting because they're like doubling down on the physical violence they did with more emotional violence to almost like deal with the shame and suppress it. It's very...
Hello? Where are you from?
I'm from Israel.
I'm from Palestine.
Yeah, I know you. Hamza, I was just watching you live.
The 20,000 children that were killed in Palestine, is that justified?
Yeah, because they're going to grow up to be Hamas. I learned this in the Torah class.
You're saying it's okay for children to be...
If they're Palestinian, they're all
20,000 children that were... That's okay?
Yeah.
Israeli society is deeply broken, psychologically speaking. They are terrified to stop and face the painful consequences of what they're doing. Afraid to be vulnerable because vulnerability feels like weakness. And interestingly, Zionists associate weakness with the way anti-Semites used to view Jews. And in a strange way, Zionists see Jews the way anti-Semites used to see Jews. Check out what this Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro says about this.
The anti-Semites accused the Jews, they looked at them as being weak. Unmanly, that was a word they used a lot. People who sit in the ghetto just poring over musty tomes of the Talmud. And the truth is that, yes, that's exactly what we were doing. We look at it with pride because we're having spiritual accomplishments. And the Zionists said enough is enough. So they decided that they're going to transform the Jews. The trauma, and that's an important word, the trauma and shame that the Zionists had were the most important contributing factors to what they wanted to be.
There's that like aspect of Israeli culture, this like kind of like uber masculine, the overlap with this sexualization, fetishization of Palestinian women. Like we see all these, TikTok videos and Instagram photos of Israeli soldiers just obsessed with dressing up in Palestinian women's underwear. Like the epitome of masculinity is genocidal intent.
Again, what is the point of these pictures? What is the point of posing with the underwear of the woman you killed or kicked out of the homes? If the goal is in fact to stop terror and kill Hamas, why pose with the underwear and lingerie? Like why? If not to assert your dominance and your manliness.
We're going to create people that are the opposite of Jews. People who are going to show those anti-Semites. We're going to show the whole world. We'll show ourselves what we really are, to create the opposite personality of a Jew.
By the way, I love this rabbi. And I think he's right because this pent-up rage of Israeli society and this need to attack before getting attacked, this need to dominate before hypothetically getting dominated, comes from that. Like, we're never going to be weak again. We're going to prove to everyone, including ourselves. I'm sure you've seen the clips from the Two Nice Jewish Boys podcast.
If you're listening to our words and saying, how could they be advocating to massive bombing, indiscriminate bombing, how could they talk about killing children? We're not advocating to target children, but forgive us if we don't give a shit. If, everybody there dies. It's just the way we feel. It's just the way Israelis feel.
This podcast was conceived for the English-speaking people who recently moved to Israel, and one of the guys is actually from Alabama. Now, I'm sure these guys think of themselves as liberal Zionists. And they've even had episodes on their podcast where they critique the right-wingers, and I love the way Daniel Mate from the Bad Hasbara analyzed these two guys.
What they're confessing to, actually, if you think about it, is the intolerable existential condition. Right. Of just being an Israeli.
Yes.
Just that is a miserable, miserable, miserable place. And it was always going to be a miserable place as long as you're haunted by the half-extermination of a people.
Yeah.
Didn't complete the job.
Seriously, imagine the misery of believing that everyone in the world is out to kill you. What a miserable existence that would be. And what's interesting with these two guys from the podcast is that they represent many people in Israeli society who used to be liberal, but now after October 7th, they're done. They're done with peace.
What did you witness after October 7th?
I believe what I saw is that people that were racists in the closets are now very openly racist because they're more allowed to do that because it's now they have a reason. And about this movement of liberals or progressive that says a lot of time that we were once people of peace, but after the 7th of October, now we don't believe in peace. So you never actually believed in peace because you don't actually realize why the 7th of October happened. So just said that you saw Palestinians as
lesser people than you. Just say that, it's okay. Say that. Here it's okay, it's fine, here it's the norm. Don't hide behind those progressive ideas.
את יודעת כמה חפים מפשע נהרגו בעזה?
לא, זה גם לא מעניין אותי.
לא? למה?
לא מעניין אותי, אני הייתי עד 7 באוקטובר האמנתי בשלום ובשיח ובדו-שיח. אחרי זה הבנתי שאין לי מי לדבר, כולם שם מחבלים, לצערי הרב.
אבל ילדים, כאילו.
לא, אני אומרת בכנות, לא מעניין אותי.
If you find it okay to say that Arab infants need to die to avoid becoming terrorists, then you were never liberal and peace-loving to begin with.
That's all.
So if you hear any noise, there are people cleaning the hallway. They come every Saturday, but yeah. So try to ignore it, babes. The way liberal Zionists ignore the truth. Just pretend it's not there. See? Easy. And these liberal Zionists can't hear what they sound like. They can't see how dehumanized Palestinians are in their eyes. Not just dehumanized, Palestinians don't even exist in their eyes. Check out this clip of this girl who Corey from the Ask Project was asking her, like, are you happy that people in Gaza are suffering? She's like, hell no, what are you talking about? Thinking he's talking about the hostages, and then it hit her that when he said people in Gaza, he meant Palestinians. For her, people don't exist there.
האם אתם שמחים שאנשים בעזה סובלים?
חס וחלילה. למה שנשמח?
לא שמחים שהם סובלים, אבל אנחנו גם לא שמחים על כל המצב שנמצא.
וואי, אני דיברה על החטופים
כנראה.
And this is in fact one of the coping strategies that I mentioned earlier, the avoiding. Just avoiding reality altogether. Just listen to this nice, liberal-sounding Israeli woman talking from last summer, by the way, when they were bombing Beirut, as the war was expanding into Lebanon, with no mention of Palestinian or Lebanese people. Like, this war is so hard on Israelis. It doesn't even register, as if it's happening like in a vacuum. And also bringing up the hostages. Keep in mind that there are no hostages in Lebanon, and there are no hostages in Syria, where the war is now expanding to. Just watch the calm, chill existence of Israelis walking their dogs.
השנה הכי קשה שעברה עליי אישית ועל כל האנשים פה, על כל הישראלים, ייקח לנו הרבה מאוד זמן להקל ולהבין מה גודל האסון. אני חושבת שאנחנו כולנו פגועי נפש ברמות שונות, ואני מתפללת שקודם כל החטופים יחזרו ושכולנו נזכה לרגיעה, לפחות לרגיעה.
It's not that the media is just shielding them. The media is shielding them because they don't want to see.
Do you watch international media?
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda? But are you... do you notice...
I try to avoid the...
Let's move to the second tactic, deflecting, and usually to Islam as the boogeyman. Just listen to this man, who's also, by the way, very nice sounding, and I'm sure he's lovely to know on a personal level. Just listen to him acknowledge that there is negative perception about Israel around the world, people in Europe, but it's also because of Islam in Europe.
The European civic, and now with a little bit misinformation and a little bit more Islamic thing in Europe.
And I love this revisionist history of people pretending that the anti-Semitism in Europe is something that Muslims brought in the last couple of decades. We're all aware who put Jews in the chambers, right? We still remember that collectively? Now look at this delusional settler who also looks very nice, sounds very nice, and I'm sure she's very kind and lovely to her kids. Look at her talking about how she would go. She used to be, by the way, next to Gaza, and now she moved to another occupied part, the Golan Heights. But anyway, when she was still in the towns surrounding Gaza, in the south of Israel, she would take the journalists to show them the happy Israeli kids with the nice hair and the horses. And those damn media, all they wanted to film are the sad kids in Gaza. And according to her, the media was focusing on the wrong thing because it's Islam against the free world.
I used to go with journalists from the BBC, CNN, French news, all the world near Gaza. I used to live there in Netzarim. And I showed them the best, and it always was the bad.
Like, so what do you mean? Give an example.
I always showed them like little kids with nice hair and all around horses, whatever. And they always went to Gaza and then see poor kids crying. And I told them, it's not about us and Gaza. It's about the whole Islamic world and the free world.
That's false America.
Now let's go to a very famous liberal, who's actually normally smart and funny and self-aware, defending Israel, albeit in a less aggressive way. Now this is her in 2021, before any of this happened.
I mean, I'm Jewish, but I'm not accountable for the actions of the
Israeli government. I'm from New England.
So far, so good, right? Because why should Sarah Silverman or any other American Jew be held accountable for what Israel does? Now, fast forward to now, she shared the post calling for Israel to cut off the water, electricity from Gaza. Because why should Israel give water and food and gas to their enemy? Without even questioning why Israel gets to control how much water, food, another population has. Ignoring the fact that that level of control and subjugation is maybe the problem. But for Sarah, that can't be the problem. The problem is, of course, anti-Semitism.
But there is this thing with Jews. I mean, like, people really hate Jews.
People in the Middle East don't hate you because you're Jewish, babe. We hate you because you're occupying our lands. I don't mean to make this about Sarah, because I actually think Sarah Silverman is very funny, and I like her. As a person, as a comedian, she's great. But what she fails to understand is that she says she's from New England, right? She shouldn't be held accountable. Well, her sister, who's also from New England, is now a rabbi living in Jerusalem.
And a big sister to me. Please welcome Rabbi Susan Silverman. Hi, Susie. In Jerusalem, where you live.
And I'm sure her sister, like her, is probably a very nice person to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
What is your version of religion?
So for me, it's the repairing the world, being God's partner.
You couldn't have healed the world from New England, from the US, where you're actually from. You had to move all the way there to heal the world.
Girl, bye, get out, get out, get out.
But back to Sarah and the use of deflection as a defense mechanism against the cognitive dissonance, against facing the reality. I'm going to play some of her interview in 2021 where she talks about the oppression of Muslims in China, which is something, by the way, all defenders of Israel do. Deflecting to the suffering of Muslims in other places like China and Syria. Like they always tell you, what about in Syria? Don't you know how many Muslims Assad killed? Okay, that's horrible. But how is that an argument for you? It's like, look over there, they also rape. I want to rape. Why do you focus on me and my rape and my crimes? Like, that's not the intelligent argument that you think it is.
No one goes up to Chinese Americans and demand that they condemn the concentration camps of 1 million Uyghur Muslims in China.
And the idea here is, of course, is people focus on Israel because people hate Jews. And we're back to square one. Anti-Semitism. It's like they're stuck in a loop void of any self-reflection or any accountability. It's like they hate us. Like that girl in high school who bullies everyone. It's like, oh, they hate me because I'm pretty. No, bitch. We hate you because you're a meh. For many Jews and a lot of other non-Jews in Europe and the US who grew up with the Holocaust education, it seems very normal for them to keep thinking about Jewish victimhood all the time. And it was real victimhood during the Holocaust, for sure. But to constantly keep thinking about it is re-traumatization. And if you apply that to any injustice faced by any other oppressed group, you'll see just how toxic it is.
Holocaust studies is not Holocaust studies. It's Zionism studies, because the final chapter in all Holocaust studies is Israel. Kids go to Auschwitz and they come out crying after they get the tour, draping with an Israeli flag draped over their shoulders. Imagine you talk about the trauma. Let's take the African American community. They were oppressed. They were dragged here from Africa in chains to be slaves. Mm-hmm. Imagine if they would react to their oppression by bringing African American children down south to visit the sites of lynchings, stick their heads in the nooses, let them feel it, show videos, make them feel they're part of it, and say, the white people, they'll never do this to us again, never again. We're going to get our own country that'll represent all the black people. It's our only hope. It's either nationalism or lynchings. And could you imagine what type of trauma that would create?
Now, the other defense mechanism is delegitimization of Palestinian resistance. It's all terror.
People look at a situation like this and they assume that people everywhere are more or less the same. They more or less want the same things. And they think, well, okay, what would it take to turn my family into this kind of strange death cult phenomenon? And the assumption, okay, these people clearly have been pushed beyond the brink of madness so as to behave this way. And who's done that to them? Well, it's the Israelis.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So the more you turn up the dial of destructiveness of the suicidal terrorism, the more the onus for these atrocities seems to fall on the victims. the Jews did that. The Israelis did that. Having to go through checkpoints and and just not having their own state and the humiliation of it all. It's all so terrible that that's what explains the character of this violence.
Exactly.
Yeah, people like Sam Harris, who's liberal and has this meditation app called Waking Up. I've never met anybody who speaks so calm, yet says the most hysterical things. The amount of interviews around the internet of this guy talking about Muslim culture as people who are deranged.
What I'm going to say is it should just be obvious to everyone, which is that we have a vast number of people in the Muslim community worldwide, not just in the occupied territories or in Gaza, who are powerfully deranged by religious symbols and their religious identity, which is to say it is the most important thing to them, but more important even than the deaths of their own children, right? We're talking about a culture, again, I'm not talking about just Palestinians, I'm talking about the Muslim community worldwide.
Shut up, bitch! Shut the up! People like Sam Harris are actually very racist and elitist. If you notice Sam Harris, the way he even talks about Jewish, Orthodox Jews who are very religious, he actually looks down on them. He's disgusted with anything that he thinks is lower class than him.
If we were ever going to get to a two-state solution, part of the remedy there is to disenfranchise the religious maniacs on the Israeli side.
So he's one of those very educated people who look down on people who are religious and don't have a high education. He's actually a very elitist and racist person. And the unintentionally funny thing with him is that he's the guru of meditation. He did this waking up app that a lot of people swear by.
Once you know how to meditate, you can recognize thoughts as thoughts.
Like the thought that brown people cannot be possibly defending their families like you have the right to. That thought. Meditate on that. Suck my Sam Harris. And then eat my Namaste. Speaking of his fake meditation and healing, I read recently an article written by an Israeli writer and an activist. Beautiful article. I'm going to link it in my description. She talks about the community in Galilee, which has all these healing centers for Israelis. And in the article, she writes about the juxtaposition, this very jarring contradiction of this place with all about healing and the subjugation of Palestinian people. But she asked, what are you healing from? And something else that these hip, leftist, liberal Zionists do is not go fight in the army, but they look down on Palestinians in other ways.
Recently in Israel, you order your taxi through apps, and it gives you always the name of the driver who is coming to collect you. And you can't believe how many Israelis wouldn't order a taxi if the name is an Arab name.
But all these coping strategies that liberal Zionists use are there to deflect from the truth. For example, these liberal Zionists lie to themselves and to the world that the objective of the war is to end terror. Right? But the beautiful thing about having honest Zionists out there is that they tell us what the objectives of the war really are.
So while the war is continuing, we will fill the areas that were liberated with Jewish communities.
It doesn't get more honest than that. She's telling us that the objective of the war is to allow us to continue with our goal. While the war is going on, this is the perfect opportunity for us to take land. But even her, if you notice, she talks about liberated areas. She uses these words that also mask real objectives, because even the craziest, most sociopathic person, even the most villainous of people, never thinks of themselves as evil. This is a big rule when you go to writing school or film school, is that when you're writing a villain, let's say, a bad guy, you never write them as someone who's judging themselves as bad, because every person deep down inside believes they're justified in their actions. Nobody's doing that evil mustache twirl thing. Everyone thinks they're good on some level. So even these honest Zionists who's we're going to take Palestinian land, to them it makes sense because the Bible told them so. Speaking of honest Zionists justifying also for themselves.
So your position here is a political position to keep Palestinians out of it?
Not to keep Palestinians out of it, to keep Jews in it.
And therefore keep the Palestinians who are here out of it?
No, that's not, no. That's a necessary evil. They're not coming back into here. So whether I am here, whether I am not here, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, whether it's a monkey, whether it's a giraffe, they're not coming back into this house ever. I understand why they're angry at me. I understand why they dislike me. But I did not do this to them. I'm not doing this to them. And as I said, if I leave, I will be replaced immediately. And I venture to think that whoever comes here is not going to be as easygoing as I am.
If you notice his stance and the way he's talking, the way he's looking down and the calm tone, he's not as crazy as that woman. So he's somewhere between the hardcore honest Zionists and the liberal Zionists. But at the end of the day, they all want the same thing, to take the land for them. Honest Zionists go for it unapologetically, and the liberal ones just dance around the ugly, painful reality. Now back to the coping strategies of the liberal Zionists. Limiting impact. Oh, it's not really genocide. How can it be genocide if they're still smiling and playing?
I agree 100% of what we do.
Right, you're talking about Gaza right now.
Yeah.
But do you think that's ethnic cleansing? Ethnic cleansing means we get rid of all of them.
No, we are not. We don't want to clean them, because if we did, we would do it very easily. We have the power. We have all the weapons.
But the ultimate form of limiting impact is the one that the liberal Zionists from Hollywood do. This sugarcoating the genocide with prettiness and beauty, which is what Hollywood is all about.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to you too.
How's it going?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Weird times. But,
Crazy times.
Crazy times.
Yeah. Especially nowadays where the entire world is going through different turbulence.
Turbulences? This is what this is? Turbulence? And what a metaphor for the cover-up of liberal Zionists these two women are. Beautiful, gorgeous, sitting in their mansion, just lighting candles. Oh my God. And by the way, Gal Gadot, she openly says that she served in the army, but if you listen to her, she's actually not that bright. She believes what she's selling. But Noah Tishby, she is something else. And if you notice, by the way, in this video, a little bit of a tangent, but she's always covered up. Like, she has a beautiful face, but she never shows off her body. But I think she was intimidated that Gal Gadot, someone that pretty, is coming up, so she brought out the girls. Gal Gadot is not going to steal my thunder.
And that's what we're doing tonight. We are actually lighting the final candle of Hanukkah.
And something else that she does, Noah Tishby. She did this series of lighting the candles, right? Again, sugarcoating, covering the genocide with like peace, which actually the sickness is that Judaism is a beautiful religion of peace, justice, and always seeking the truth and truth-telling. But people like her, and which represent the whole Israel, like Zionist project, they use this as a cover. And in one of the ceremonies of lighting the candles, she hooks up with Tiffany Haddish, which is something also Hollywood now uses, trying to align themselves with the African American community, because they're realizing that black activists are seeing the parallels of oppression. They're like, hell no. But anyway, in the video with Tiffany Haddish, Noah Tishby's son just happens to be walking around the synagogue and just pops in, oh hi, just to position Noah Tishby as like, a mother, and just, again, infuse the image of Israel with nurture and motherhood, and oh my God.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Hanukkah, candle number 7.
Happy Hanukkah. I put on some press-on nails for you.
Oh my God, it's my son.
Hey, son.
Buena.
I love it. He's happy to see.
It's all image. It's all PR, especially this alignment with Hollywood and targeting stuff at the English-speaking world. This obsession of how they're coming across to America, their main funder, is baked into the DNA of Zionism. You've heard of the term Hasbara, right? The explaining, which is something that Matt Lieb and Daniel Mate mock on their amazing podcast, Bad Hasbara. But Hasbara is something that Zionists are actually proud of. They think it's good. They need to explain Israel to the rest of the world.
A lot of American Jews are doing Hasbara. What are you doing for Hasbara? We're not doing nothing. Nothing? Yes. Come on, people. Your English is very good, too.
I'm actually astonished how they put this stuff out there. In a way, you have to be grateful for the delusion of liberal Zionists, that they're so blind that they can't see that them posting this stuff online is telling us what this project is about. I'm sure you've seen this gem that went around a couple of weeks ago that went viral of this woman saying, who gives a shit how many civilians are dying? Now, she's not exactly a liberal Zionist, but also she's like, probably in her everyday life, she's very sweet and tender and kind and nice.
Children grow up to be Arabs. Parents use them as human shields to gain sympathy. The natural instinct of a Jewish mother is to protect her child. Palestinian women do not have that.
As sickening as that was, the fact that something like this went viral speaks to the idea that the world is starting to wake up to what Israel really is. The true nature of Israel that liberal Zionists try to hide, albeit unconsciously. Because again, you have to point out that these people are not evil. We have to remember that. But just psychologically broken. And with all this on display, it feels like truly the beginning of the end. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And when we say end, we don't mean the end of Jews. We're talking about the end is a land that is free and democratic for all. Equality, honey. Yeah? Not everyone's out to kill you. Please, Please wake up. And even though there is a light at the end of the tunnel, far away at the end of the tunnel, which is no good for Palestinians on the ground today, but of course you can't help but want to feel hopeful, because without hope, what is the point of anything, right? But anyway, the light at the end of the tunnel is still far away for Palestinians right now, but liberation is on the way. I want you to check out what this Israeli Knesset member said after being suspended. Suspending a guy who's trying to speak up about the genocide.
Part of my struggle, a great deal of my struggle, is as an Israeli politician and representative to amend my own society. I want Israel to be a good society with no occupation, and they don't want me to be able to do so. I will continue, with my comrades of course.
אני יהוד, לא ציון. אני רוצה להיות יהודי כמו פעם, כמו לפני 150 שנה, שחיו פה בשלום ושמחה, שכל הפלסטינים יחזרו לפה.
It's important to remember what these anti-Zionist Jews are fighting for, like the rest of us around the world are fighting for. It's the freedom and dignity of Palestinians, the dignity that they deserve.